Hey, everybody. We are back and a little bit late. That's on me, everybody. But hey, I'm so excited because today we are going to hit season 2 of Invincible and we have a special guest with us. So stay tuned here on Two Geeks and a Microphone.
Welcome to the Two Geeks and a Microphone podcast, your one-stop shop for television, movie, video games, comic books, book reviews, and more. Now, without further ado, here's Steven and Mike.
Did you get it figured out?
Hello there. Hello there. So who talks first? You talk first. I talk first.
We are still learning EV Mux, everybody, and we love it. We are open and transparent here on Two Geeks and a Microphone. Good morning, everybody. I am your co-host, Mr. Stephen Bosser, along with the one, the only, the most beardiest of them all, Mr. Mike Shanks. Mike, say hey to everybody.
Good morning to all you geeks out there in Geekdom Land. And all I'm seeing right now is syncing, allocating some resources. So as soon as you went live, everything kind of went dark on my side. So I didn't know what was going on.
Where we were at. Oh,
yeah.
That's weird.
So I hear you. I can see you faintly in the background, but it still says syncing for me. So we'll just play by ear and see what happens.
Okay. That's interesting. Okay. Well, I'll make sure I handle the rest of the stuff going on over there. And if you have to refresh or something, just let me know, kind of thing. We'll keep it going. But real quick, I want us to introduce our big old guest who's been with us before, and I'm super excited. Mike, who is our guest today?
Today we have back our friend Tom of Big Dog Inc. Tom.
Hi guys. How are you?
Good. How are you doing?
Doing fine.
I am so glad you're here with us. Everybody, when he was here before, we were talking about Invincible season 1. And I learned there that, I mean, he collects all kinds of comics and graphics, but I had no idea that Invincible was a whole comic series. I should have, but I didn't. So Tom was more geekier than I was. And so it was great. So then, so he brought some great insights to the show. And so we had asked, hey, would you be willing to come back for season 2 to help us? And so he is. We're here because season 3 is just around the corner. Does it come out? Is it next week? Next Saturday? Next Friday or something like that?
Yeah, it's supposed to be February sometime.
You know,
so it can't be too far off.
I guess since we're actually talking about it, I guess I should. Here, let me go. Season 2 release date is let's see. The second part of season 2 of Invincible was released March and April 2024. No. Season 3. I said season 2. Sorry, you guys. Season 3 release date is February 6th. It's going to have a 3-episode premiere.
Oh, nice.
So I'm pretty excited about it. So, everyone, we're going to be talking about Invincible season 2, and I've so wanted to call Mike this week to talk about it, and because I watched it this week in prep for today, and I was good. I almost let the bag slip when I talked to him once this week, kind of a thing. But we have done what we said. We've saved it for the podcast, and so to discuss. So I'm super excited. And Tom, I am very appreciative that you are here with us. We are so excited to have you here with us again, because we went for, holy cow, we went much more longer than we normally do.
Oh yeah. I'm used to doing, most of the podcasts that I do are usually like 2 hours. So that wasn't even like a blip for me. It's like, whatever you guys want to do, we'll just keep going. There's sometimes we get on these podcasts and we reach a point where we're getting towards the end, but you can feel that it's like it's actually found a groove, and we're all just like, just keep going. Like, we're not doing anything else. Just leave it on.
Well, Steven's like the busiest guy on the planet, so.
Well, yeah, but that's all right. Today is my rest day. I worked a long day yesterday. Longest day I think I've ever worked, from 7 in the morning to almost 11 last night, because it was end of year. Those dadgum 1099s that have to go out to all these different people and getting all those done. So anyway, so that's a long story. But anyway, enough of that. Today is about fun. And you are correct that sometimes that time goes by like a blip. Yeah. Because we were having so much fun last time. So I'm super excited about today. So, Mike, did you have any geeky news or anything?
I have no geeky news. My Geekdar is kind of the same as last week. So I don't know if you want to do that.
Just for those that may not know, here, let's. So we're not going to do. All I had time for this week was to watch Invincible. So I've got no geeky. I haven't had a chance to look at geeky news, but let's go ahead and do our Geekdar real quick.
Okay.
Go with the radar, sir.
What's wrong with it?
I've lost the bleeps, I've lost the sweeps, and I've lost the creeps.
The what? The what? And the what?
You know, the bleeps, the sweeps, and the creeps.
It's not all he's lost.
Go with the radar, sir.
What's wrong with it?
I've lost the bleep.
All right. So we do have some geeky news.
But wants to do nothing but play right now.
Right, because we're on the show. All right, so go ahead, do your Geekdar, and then I do have some geeky news real quick.
Okay, so my Geekdar kind of goes back to last week. I am continuing Batman Resurrection novel. I'm up on, what did I tell you earlier? It's chapter 11, I think I said, Stephen.
I think
about
so.
30% done with the book.
Wow.
And as of last week, we got confirmation that John Jackson Miller, the author of this book, will be joining us at the end of February. So he's going to come on and talk about his I guess, creative process on this book and how he chose the different characters. And I got to say, I'm really happy with the characters he chose for this book. It's
nice.
It is so good. So
nice. Tom, do you have anything that you've been interested in lately, or that you've been taking up your geek time?
Not a lot. It's very random for me. I kind of dive into things just sort of like, once I get to a point in the night where it's like, okay, time to shut down. It's just sort of turn on Netflix, turn on Amazon, like start the scroll. Like, what is here? Is anything here? And also it kind of depends on if I need a little bit of like inspiration for like what I'm going to be doing. If I'm writing horror and stuff, I kind of tend to find, like, give me a horror movie, give me something, in this vein to kind of give me a spark, so that when I crash and wake up in the morning, it's like, that was the last thing that was in my brain. So, I've just been moving through a lot of odds and ends of things, and reading some old comics, just various stuff. That I read a lot of old stuff because from my collection, because that's what kind of inspires me for what I'm doing. I try and, it's not even that I read the comics anymore. It's that I'm trying to learn from the comics. I'm trying to learn, like, okay, what, how did this writer deal with dialogue? How did this artist deal with, like page layouts and panels and stuff? And cause that's where I have to, as a writer, I have to kind of keep upping my game, for things. So it's like,
right on.
Okay. How does, it's like, I bought a bunch of, gunslinger spawns, from Tom McFarlane. But I bought it primarily because when I had seen, and I bought trade paperbacks because that's mostly how I do stuff now. But I was like, when I saw the floppies on the rack, and I saw that Brett Booth was doing the art, I was like, oh, Brett Booth, like, that guy's so good. And I'm like, just like looking through the books, and I'm like, oh my God, like, this is wild how he's doing this stuff. And I don't know how much of it is Todd writing and how much of it it's Brett, creating it. That I don't know. I'd love to figure out like who's doing what in this combination. But I was like, this is like really visually. It was taking me back to old Todd McFarlane, like old McFarlane Spider-Man and stuff, where it's not your normal like panel. It's like rectangles and, you know, crazy thin things and, and horizontal. It just wasn't normal. And so I got really into the visual aspect of Gunslinger Spawn. And, so, you know,
do you find that it's for you because you have such this analytical eye for books, just because of what you're doing, that it's hard to separate just reading a comic just for the beauty of the comic's sake versus the analytical eye? Oh, what can I learn from this? How did they do this? Or it just depends on your mood.
It depends on the book. There's books that I read and I'm like, give me this story. Like I just read the new G.I. Joe last night from Larry Hama, and I've been that's the only like new recent series that I have lasted on for its entirety. So they started with like 301 when it went over to Skybound. And now it's on like 16 or something. And I've gone through the whole thing. Now, when it first hit, I was like, I instantly fell in love with the Chris Mooniam art. I was like, yo, what is this? This is crazy for G.I. Joe. Because if you look at that and look what IDW was doing with G.I. Joe, it's like, what? This is a level up. And so I was totally into the Mooniam art. And so I was in, and I love G.I. Joe anyway. So I was like, this is a really cool visual. And then, as I read it, I was like, oh, this is okay. This is all right. And then, so Mooniam only did like 6 issues, and then he jumped off. I don't know if that was planned or what, but, who came in? I want to say it was Steve Epting, somebody else that I knew came in and took over the book for a period of time. And I kind of was starting to drag with it. I was like, I don't know, the Mooniam art was so good. This is good too, but it's not what it was. But the story was enough that I was like, all right, I'll stick with this and see where it goes. And then Chris came back and I was like, the all is right with the world. And, so, you know, this last couple of issues, it's been, cause it's Serpentor. I love Serpentor. So Serpentor was in it. The dynamics are very different from what we understand, because there's like chaos within the Cobra organization. Not everybody is on everybody's same side. And, so this last issue was, Destro versus Cobra Commander. And I was like, oh, this is pretty good. And when Chris is on it, like that just changes the game for me. So, it's the only book that I've stuck through for that extended period of time that is an ongoing series. So, I've really enjoyed that book.
Who's doing that series? Who's publishing that series now?
That's Skybound.
Skybound. Okay.
Yeah, that's Kirkman's company, Robert Kirkman.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
So they got the rights to G.I. Joe now.
Yeah. So what they're doing though is they have 2 universes for G.I. Joe. So they have the G.I. Joe that I'm reading that started at 301. They have that universe, which is the continuation of the book that goes all the way back to Marvel. So the numbering just keeps going, right? So when they took over the book, they just kept the numbering going.
Oh, that's so cool.
And then there's what they call the Energon universe, which is the Hasbro world, which is where the G.I. Joe and the Transformers sort of live in the same world, along with some other things. And that's a completely different story. It's 100% different. So what they did is they wanted to create a new thing, which is the Energon universe, but they also wanted to let Larry Hama continue to write G.I. Joe from what he was doing. So Larry gets his world to play around with, and then there's the Energon world, which is wildly different.
Wow.
Now help me understand the Energon world again, because I was busy pulling this up.
Well, Energon universe, again, it's just basically a universe where the Hasbro characters can play around together. G.I. Joe, Transformers, they're in the same world, which has happened before. I mean, we've done G.I. Joe versus Transformers before.
Yeah.
This is like, these are ongoing series that now link together. And then there's like another one called like Void Rivals that fits in there somehow. To be perfectly honest, I don't really care for the Energon universe like much at all. I did read the Cobra Commander miniseries. That was actually really good, but the rest of it I've not been able to latch onto in the slightest. But it has been popular. People have liked it, and it is rolling along. So, if you like it, you like it. But it wasn't for me. But I do love the other one, which was a gigantic surprise to me because I hadn't read G.I. Joe or Transformers really in a decade. So I just gave it a shot just because of the art. And I was pleasantly surprised.
Yeah. So here I am looking at all the.
Yeah, as you say, I like the Invincible t-shirt. I kind of want one.
Right.
That's pretty cool.
Okay. All right. Sorry. See, I'm geeking out right on the show. Sorry, you guys. I'm getting distracted. Tom, always a pleasure. This is great. Okay. So, all right. Well, we should use this as a lead in, but before we do that, I do have one thing I need to do for this. It is, I'm going to go back to sharing my screen. I want to go back to Tom. I always love having you here, and I want to give you kudos and also props, but also talk about what it is that you have going on right now. There's only 4 days left at SNES. And
yeah,
so
it's technically 5 because that doesn't include today. But yeah, it ends Wednesday night. Yeah, Kickstarter has a weird thing that they do there because it's basically 4 hours plus 4 days plus all of the hours of the current day. So it's 5 days. Wednesday night.
So you've got a Kickstarter. So Little Critter 25, the Critterverse reveal. And so tell us what this is and kind of for those that may not have met you yet, that may not have seen you when you were on the show before, what is the Critterverse? And just talk about this and what this Kickstarter is about.
Yeah, so this is issue 25 of the ongoing series. We did a mini series to start this book back in 2010. So this is our 15-year anniversary in 2025 for the company, for Critter, and for our other series called Penny for Your Soul, which we'll be doing more of that in March. So with Critter, we've been doing issues since last year. So this wrapped around and it starts our 15-year anniversary. So this is issue 25 of the ongoing series. It wraps up volume 6 of the, if we were to look at it as trade paperbacks. It's the issue where we finally give you more concrete answers as to how, who, what, where, why, when, how the Critterverse works, and will continue forward. Without giving spoilers, we've been dropping sort of hints along the way for 15 years. Like this is kind of this kind of thing in here, but this is where we finally get to say, no, this is it. This is how it works. This is what you can sort of expect as we move the story forward out of this volume and into, the next sort of stage of Critter's evolution, both for her, both for the book and the whole thing. So, this is going to be, the last issue in this volume, but 26, the story will continue on. Critter basically is old school superhero stuff. That's what I grew up with when I was a kid. So when I wanted to learn how to write comics, I didn't know how to write a comic book, but I felt like I understood the superhero genre from comics, from watching Batman TV show, and just I felt like I understand superheroes, so I'm going to learn how to write through the genre that I feel like I understand. And so that's where I started. Critter was the first book I ever wrote. And now here she is, 15 years later, after a few sort of hiatuses, like when we were with Aspen and so on. Now we're back with it. I'm super excited to get this particular issue done, this whole arc done, and really put it into the next phase of what we want to do with this character, which we already have plans well ahead. So, but again, it's old school superhero stuff. It's fantasy costumes, spandex, it's utility belts, it's secret identities. There's crossovers with other creators, superheroes. They make appearances from time to time in here. So again, I just wanted to make it as fun of a superhero experience as I can within the context of what people understand, how Marvel and DC work and all that kind of stuff. I want to give them that throwback nostalgia feel, but it is a modern day book. So we have cell phones and things in the book, but it's definitely a throwback as far as the storytelling style, I think.
Well, I have to say I had like a flashback to, I'm going to date myself here, everybody's Electra Woman and Dyna Girl.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah. Also, incidentally, for those of you who have no idea what we're talking about, it's on Tubi. Go watch it.
Is it really?
On Tubi, yeah. Or at least it used to be. I don't know if it still is, but it used to be on Tubi. But check Amazon, check Tubi. It's around. Yeah. Hanna-Barbera not Hanna-Barbera. What am I saying? Croft. Superstars and stuff with Land of the Lost and all of that. Yeah.
Land of the
100%.
Lost.
100%. Yeah. So the spandex costumes and just the fun of design. We don't worry about like hyper reality here in this thing. We're not like, why would you wear like such a thing? I was like, who cares? It's superheroes. Like, these aren't real people. Like, why are you concerned with like armor on like dudes like Superman? Like, they don't need it. Like, what are you talking about? Like, just go and have fun, create cool designs, and just exist in the fantasy world for a minute.
Oh, that's just like when everyone harps on like Wonder Woman, there's no way a woman could fight in a costume like that. Oh, who cares? Just enjoy the story.
Yeah, and they get uptight about like, heels on their boots and stuff. And then you go and find real people who are like doing cartwheels and jumping off trucks in heels in the real world. I'm like, yo, parkour is real, people. Like, we're doing this for real. Like, stop worrying about it. But at the end of the day, these aren't real people. Like, they shoot lasers out of their eyes, and you're worried about like what they're wearing. Like, what are we doing? This is weird.
I've said that many times. I'm like, really? This is what you're concerned with? You're talking about a guy who can fly and shoot lasers out of his eyes, and you're concerned with the costume. Come on.
It makes no sense. Makes no sense.
Yeah.
None whatsoever.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
So I'm just scrolling for those who may be audio listening. I'm just scrolling our video on YouTube. Please check it out. I'm just kind of scrolling through what's on that page. You can do a look or a search under when you go into Kickstarter, and probably what's the best word? Critter or Critterverse?
You can just put Critter in there, or you can even search by my name, and it'll just pull up kind of all of our stuff, and you'll see the new things. Plus, you can also search by like ending soonest. We'll be in that list of general things that are ending relatively soon. So there's Kickstarter's cool because you can search through things a lot of different ways.
I know. So yeah. So just doing a little scroll. All these awesome variant covers, by the way.
Yeah, there's a bunch of variant covers. We did I don't know if we already passed it. We did an homage to the old Craven's Hunt cover that Mike Zeck did, where Spider-Man's crawling out of the dirt from when he was buried alive. So we did a little homage to that because we have a vampire critter from one of our Critterverse.
Where was that one?
Places. And so I got a hold of Joel Gomez, who does work for like Coffin Comics and stuff. And I was like, we don't do a lot of homages, but we have this, this vampire critter, and I thought it would fit if we wanted to do it and you want to do it. He was like, yeah, this is really cool. So
I love what you called it, the Nosferatu.
Nice play there.
That one actually caught my eye when I was looking at it earlier.
Okay, Tom, I got to ask you, or I got to at least comment. So last time you were on, we talked a lot about digital, and you even had a little tagline. What was it? Use more trees or something
more trees.
Something along that line. But I see that you do have a digital set on here too.
Yeah, this is pretty much the only place where we do much in the way of digital, and that's because we have a lot of guys that are primarily, clearly people in the U.S. buy it too, but when you're shipping stuff overseas shipping is like free. Gotcha. And so we make those offers for the folks that again, it's for anybody, but we definitely have people that are like in Europe and whatever. And if they were to buy even one book, to ship it to them would be like another $30. So it's there for ease of use and, for the folks that don't want to have that extra, expense. Shipping it to Australia is like $50 for a book. It's crazy. Ooh. And we have fans all around the world. That's the whole thing. Like, if I didn't have a sense that, we weren't worldwide as far as a fan base, I probably wouldn't worry about it. But I do know that we are a worldwide community of Big Dog Inc. fans. So I'm like, all right, we got to at least give them the opportunity. If they want the physical book, we'll give it to them. That's not a problem. But if they just want to be engaged in the product, then, we'll have the digital options.
Awesome. Okay.
Yeah.
Very cool. All right. Well, everybody, please be sure to check out his campaign, and they're on Kickstarter. You can do Critterverse, or Tom Hutchison on that. So, all right. Well, we better get to our main event, shall we?
Yes. Let's do this.
It's time for the main event. All right, let's do this. Dun. We've saved it for the podcast this whole time. We've got Tom with us, and now it begins. All right.
So, I just want to say, when we started episode 1 of season 2, okay, Brenda kind of watches at Invincible. She's a little turned off by the violence and the cursing in it. She's like, I think they cuss a little too much. I don't understand that. And I'm like, well, yeah, it is what it is. But anyway, when that first episode kicked off, all three of us, me, Brenda, and Megan, all three went, what is going on?
I thought I had missed something. I'm like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Was it season 3 already? Or, or something. I was like,
right.
Am I looking at the right one? What's going on here? Yeah, go ahead.
Right. You had to kind of go back and look at the end of season 1. Like, wait a minute. How is it that he seems to be fighting with Nolan and destroying Earth? I was so confused. It completely threw me off. And then we got into the story, and you kind of saw that it was sort of a multiverse type thing happening.
Yeah, I thought it was a dream sequence. I thought that's where we're going. Oh, this has got to be a dream sequence. And all that is, this may not be a dream sequence.
I kept thinking the same thing. I'm like, dream sequence. What is going on there? Or maybe we're seeing a jump in the future. I had no idea, but I'm like, no, Mark can't be doing this.
No, please, no. So it started off very well, I will say. Everybody, normally what we do is here at the beginning, we kind of give our overall impressions of the whole season, and then we give it a grade, and then we kind of do more of the spoilerific territory kind of stuff. And it's been out a little while, so we're getting ready for season 3. As we said earlier, starts off February 6th, so that's next weekend. I'm very excited, and then and we'll kind of go from there. So, anybody want to start off with their original view of the overall overarching view, executive summary, as it were, of the of season 2 of the show Invincible on Amazon Prime?
I'll give you a little bit of, because you were talking about like the cussing and the violence and stuff. I'll give you a little background on that for Mr. Kirkman.
Sure.
Or more specifically, you can blame Eric Larson for that, because Robert Kirkman back in the 90s when Image was happening, Robert Kirkman was a wild, over the top fan for Savage Dragon, and Savage Dragon is a wild, over the top violence, blood, the whole thing comic book. And so that was the book that made Kirkman want to now make his own comics. So he came from the thought process of like, this is different from what we're doing with Superman and Batman and Wonder Woman and whatever. And he went fully into that side of, take everything to, whatever extreme you can take it to. And so that was part of the whole thing of Invincible was, I don't want to just do a superhero book that looks like all the other ones. I want to push the violent stuff. I want to push the envelope on all of it. Yeah. So, but even in that situation, Invincible, the comic, was almost canceled.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. partially because Cory Walker, the original artist, was behind on the art and the book was late. But then when Ryan Ottley came on and they sort of got it back on track, that's when it started to see its kind of rise up. But yeah, it was
the fact that you say it was constantly late. I find that kind of interesting because Jim Lee, who is he's the executive, or he's like the chief executive officer or whatever of DC now. He was notoriously late with his books. He was bad, from what I understand. You never knew when a Batman issue was coming out because he was so late with his stuff.
Sure. Yeah. But, the thing is that he had at the beginning, when he started his career, he wasn't late. He was doing his job. And eventually he built himself to be Jim Lee, which who cares if he's late anymore? Because it's just do we get more Jim Lee? Yes. Then whenever it's here, it's fine. But when you're talking about coming in with a brand new thing that no one's ever heard of before,
sure.
You're gonna have a lot of scrutiny on what you're doing. So,
particularly,
and he came in with a whole bunch of other superhero stuff, Dynamo 5 and, Noble Causes. Like Image was doing a big superhero thing at the time. And so if you are the sort of the standout book that's not working, that's then it's like, oh, I don't know, we can keep doing this. And then they got Ryan Ottley and they were off to the races.
Well, and I did tell Brenda when she's like, well, they sure do curse a lot in this. And I was like, well, it is Rob Kirkman, and you did watch The Walking Dead.
Yeah.
And she goes, I know, I watched The Walking Dead, but they didn't curse as much in The Walking Dead. I go, you didn't read the comics, though. I read the comics. I said, this isn't far off from the Walking Dead comic books. So that was the only thing that turned her off. Like I said, she watches at it. She's not like a big fan of Invincible. Megan and I both have become big fans of this show, and we've really enjoyed it. I think it's a fun show. It's a different take on superheroes, a little bit different take on superheroes. And I think it's been an interesting story.
So let me ask you this, now, just to kind of get into our ratings. Did you like it better or worse than season 1?
Ooh, definitely not worse. That's for sure. It's hard to say better, but I think I enjoyed it as much as I did season 1. I really, really enjoyed it. I thought it was a good season. I thought we saw more development in Mark, which I enjoyed. We appear to be getting a story arc with Nolan where he might be coming back around to being the hero. And I like that, but at the same time, I don't trust him. Mm-hmm. So, it's left me this questioning in my mind. Do we trust Nolan? Is he really coming back around? And I haven't finished all the books yet, so I don't know where he went in the books as far as that goes and stuff. So I think it's good intrigue. I like it. I like it a lot.
If you had to rate it, what should we do for our rating scale?
Good question. Shoot. I'm trying to think of something that was really prevalent in this season.
How many sequids do you give it from 1 to 10?
Nice.
Sequids. Those are the Starro things. Like, yeah, that was the first thing I thought with those two. I was like, that reminds me of Starro from DC Comics. Okay, how many sequids? Out of 10 sequids, I would probably give it 8.5.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, I liked it. I liked it a lot. I really enjoyed the season. It kept me engaged the entire season. And yes. No Steven skips whatsoever.
Right on. Okay. Nice.
I still think Mark looks like Animal Man in his costume.
Yes.
Everybody, that voice you heard from out of nowhere was Megan.
Megan wanted to say that the first time we did when we did season 1 and we forgot about it, but she is right. Mark's costume very much resembles Animal Man, one of the versions of Animal Man from DC Comics. And season 1, I kept having that stupid theme music run through my head. Animal Man.
Well, I give it a very solid 9 out of 10. Solid 9.01243. So, no, I'm just kidding. I had very minimal Steven skips, just because it was a season and there's some parts I was like, okay, I can skip this part or whatever. There's certain parts of it. It was very minimal. I absolutely adored this season. I thought it was much more better than season 1. Cheers, all right. I will say that I thought some of the story development was better. We were getting deeper storylines. The interactions between the heroes was really good. Yes, the adventure was great. All the superheroing and stuff like that was good. The storyline with Nolan I find very intriguing, actually, as a plot line, and we'll get into that in the more spoilerific territory. And then I just thought we still have with Invincible with Mark, just, still trying to figure out who he is in this world kind of a thing. I get that. But I like the dynamic between father figure and who he is and that internal struggle. I am not my father kind of a thing. They brought that out several times and I like that.
No, that's impossible.
Right. Oh, from Star Wars. That's a good one. So, I really enjoyed it. I really did. And I was all I could do not to call you to go, this is awesome, kind of a thing.
Cool.
To save it for the podcast today. So, Tom, what are your thoughts? What were your score would be on the old Invincible season 2?
Yeah, I agree with you guys. Like we said before, I know where all this goes. So some of it's a little anticlimactic for me, but I definitely felt it was a better season overall. I mean, anytime you can kind of leave some of the origin behind, that's sort of, that drags, especially if you know it. It's like, oh, okay, like let's get to what I know is out there. Like, let's go.
Yeah.
And so that's what this season did. That this season gets us out there and it really kickstarts the whole thing. That I don't know exactly how much we're going to see in season 3, how deep they're going to go, because this is not a issue by issue adaptation of the comic by any stretch of the imagination. It's a very condensed version, and I think they said we're supposed to get like 6 seasons and then it'll be done. So if we take that sort of thought process and see where we are, you can kind of figure out how they're going to break this down kind of the rest of the way, to some degree anyway. But anyway, yeah, I agree. I definitely give it a good 8, for sure. And if I hadn't known any of this, I probably been at that 9 level for sure. Yeah. But it was good. It was fun. It was exciting. It expanded the universe really well. And it did a great job.
So you say they're saying only 6 seasons.
That's what I've heard. Now, that's not to say that they can't expand it if they want to, but I think I've heard somewhere that they have a plan for 6 seasons.
Because I've got trades 1 through 5.
Yeah.
I'm looking at them right now.
Yeah.
And I'm on trade number 3 right now.
Like the actual trades or the big omnibus things?
No, the trades.
Just the regular trades. Yeah. So there's 25 trades.
Oh, really? Oh,
yeah.
Okay. All right.
There's
well, now these are a new run of the trades too.
Sure. Yeah, but they're still breaking into those 5 or 6 issues or whatever. Yeah. So there'll be 25 of those.
5. I just kind of flipped through 5 real quick, and I'm getting the alien family, that Nolan takes on in season 2, and I'm like, holy cow, that issue or trade 5 is still part of, for what it looks like, part of season 2. So I'm like, I don't even have the story going into season 3 then.
Well, so here's what Yahoo News does so speaking with Collider, Kirkman revealed how many seasons Invincible will ideally have. He goes, the way Simon and I have mapped out where we would kind of follow the comic and where the breaks would be roughly 8 seasons, could be 7, could be 10, he said. But it is confirmed that there is already a 4th season. It's already been renewed for a 4th season.
Nice. Nice.
for sure.
So is he done with the books?
Oh yeah, Invincible finished many years ago. Yeah, but he's coming back to the universe now with a new one of the. Oh yeah, he's been in. I can say this. So Battle Beast has been in the series, in the TV show. So Battle Beast is a character from the comics, and Kirkman and Otley are coming back to do a Battle Beast series of some sort, probably a miniseries. But so that's happening. But the Invincible book ended at like 100 and I don't know, whatever it is, 25 trade paperbacks worth of the series. Yeah.
Wow.
So I have a quarter of the trade backs.
Paperbacks. Oh yeah. Yeah. And I would love that they go longer, because again, based on what we see and what they're showing us from what I know of the stories, I hope they go longer, because the longer they go, the deeper they can go into all the stuff that they created, for the comic book. So there's definitely stuff that they can pull out, which they have, but there's definitely stuff that I think is relevant to the long-term aspect of the story. And if they have to sort of, hyper constrict it to get a finale, in like 5 or 6 seasons, we might lose some of that extra stuff that I really liked.
Gotcha.
Well, I want to, hey everybody, we're going to start going to spoilerific territory just because I'm so intrigued about where things could be and all kinds of things. And this is always great. Tom, you're like an encyclopedia of comic book knowledge and everything. I love it. One of the things I really enjoyed in this was the introduction of new characters, new worlds, like Nolan's new family kind of a thing. But what was so interesting, what made it so different, was their lifespan.
Yeah.
Kind of a thing. And I was like, oh my goodness, their natural lifespan and how long that is. And then the introduction of a new character and Nolan's son, so Mark has a brother, and I thought, we're going to get some brotherly love, probably, maybe not. We'll see, kind of a thing. I know that's going to be some of season 3, because of course I watched the trailer for season 3. I was excited. And then, I enjoyed the, gosh, what's his name? The one eye.
Alan.
I love Alan.
Alan is my favorite character. I love Alan. And I was so angry when we're in spoilerific territory. So,
we are.
And of course,
spoilers.
Of course, this has been out for a while now. So, if you don't want any spoilers, go stop watching us.
100% go watch the season.
Watch season
100%. It's great.
Back. All right, now you're back. Good. Okay. So when Alan dies, and he dies at the hands of Viltrumite, which I had a feeling was a Viltrumite to begin with, I was pissed. I'm like, you got to be kidding! You're killing him off, and you're killing him off this soon. I was so mad. I'm like, no.
I love Alan.
He is absolutely my favorite character. I like him. He's a lot of fun. But they brought him back, and they brought him back much more better,
beefier. Hey, cheers, everybody.
So I was happy when they brought him back, and they brought him back beefier, stronger, and he seemed more confident. And I'm like, oh, okay. So I just get a better version of Alan. All right.
I was like,
I'm okay with this.
They put Alan on Batman Venom.
Except he didn't go crazy.
Right? Yeah, I enjoyed that.
Yeah, it's one of the things is Kirkman's not afraid to kill his characters, but there's still the knowledge of this guy's not dying.
Right.
Sometimes you're too key,
right.
And so even if he dies, they'll probably find a way to, bring him back later or whatever. But Alan was definitely one of the key players that, you kind of probably are going to guess he's going to be fine down the line at some point.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But your concerns about the deaths of characters are well founded, because Kirkman will just be like, and that guy's gone now.
Well, I know that from The Walking Dead. I mean,
sure, yeah.
Dead, he was notorious for killing off characters, and you were just like gut. It was like a gut punch sometimes.
See, that's the Well, I mean, again, it's like I just said, this guy's not going to die. But when this guy's not going to die, it can sometimes take you out of what's going on. Like the idea that like there was these guys back in the day, there was if Daryl dies, we riot, right? Because everybody knows Daryl to die. But I was like, no, that's the opposite. Like that's the guy that should die, because if he dies, like not like immediately, but as a surprise, like he's just like, holy crap, they killed Daryl. That opens the door for anything can happen now. Like literally anything can happen if you're offing off characters like that. So I like that thought process where, even if the fans are like really on it, like you gotta, especially in a context of like The Walking Dead, if you can keep them always guessing, that's fantastic storytelling. It's like in my Critter series, we killed off a character, and I immediately had people messaging me, and at cons they were like, "She's not really dead though, right?" And I was like, "No, she's dead. She's dead." And they were like, "No." Like, yeah, but for me, it's
Did
like,
you get anyone upset at you for it?
I mean, not like they weren't like mad at me for doing it, but they were upset that she was,
okay.
At least at that point when I was telling them, I was like, no, she's gone. She's dead. We did cheat a little with at the beginning of the story with Critter's mom. We had her as dead, and we brought her back. But again, that was sort of the way that we bring her back. That's clearly a part of the story, the built-in elements of why she's still alive.
If it works within the rules of the universe,
right. Versus like, oh, we've killed a character and we're just arbitrarily bringing her back 8 issues later because we want her back. How many times has Robin died for just like, what's the point anymore if you're just going to bring them back 6 issues later? So yeah, right. And that's the value with Kirkman, is when he offs somebody, he will just be like, well, that's it. They're gone.
We just did last week. Robin Lives.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Yep. Real quick, Chad Perkins on Facebook says, "Oh God, it's the weird cat ear guy."
Yeah, that's that weird fish guy. That Chad. That's that weird fish guy.
Well, I think you wear the cat ears because of your character Critter, right?
Right? This was tech sort of ish. But it was really just like I was starting to do a lot of podcasts, and I didn't have I didn't have the mic, or I had nothing. And so when I went to go look for headphones, I was like, let me just get something that's a little more unique than just the average thing. I stumbled across them, and I don't know, God, it's been years since I've had anything other.
Nice. Okay. I just figured it had to tie to Critter because
I mean, when I saw them the first time, I was like, there was definitely like an immediate connection. Like, oh, this makes sense. So let's just grab these things.
Cool. Very cool.
Love it. All right. Well, I think one of the things though is that's a good correlation about the whole killing off characters, because Walking Dead was my first real experience of where I felt that anybody could go in the beginning when I watched it in the beginning.
And then he kind of broke that rule though with Rick and Daryl and Michonne.
As it continued,
right.
Yes. By the time we got to Michonne, yeah.
By the time you got there, those 3 characters, they were solid, and they're still alive today, as far as I know. And I haven't watched any of the stuff that's went on after.
Well, that's okay. I think for Invincible, though, I used to feel that way until this season, to be open with you, because the first episode of the first season was super shocker for me. Super shocker. I'm like,
kill off the entire superhero team.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, and then now, okay, some of them are back, sort of. And then also, who did he kill off? Of the Guardians, the one girl that multiplies herself.
Duplicate. Well, she didn't actually die though. So.
Well, yeah, I thought she did.
Right. Well, we all did. We all thought she did. And then they revealed that she actually kept herself alive, that what died was one of her duplicates, which I thought was, okay, this is perfect because it fit. Again, it falls within the rules of your universe. So it works. I had no issue with her coming back. You know, it's
I didn't either. I was like, oh, yay. And now what's his name can feel all much more betterer, you know, kind of a thing. But I would say that I used to think that you could kill off anybody, because here's Alan. Then Alan kind of comes back, or, you know, Alan's, you don't know if he's going to make it. Then the one guy, the one leader of his universe kind of cut, you know, looks like cuts his life support. And then the next thing you know, Alan's back beefier than ever. And then she dies. All her duplicates get, you know, that was great. Actually, that was a great fight sequence, but I was like, everybody's dying. And then, but then she comes back at the end, and I was like, what? I wasted all those tears at the funeral and all that. And then now she's back again. Say what? You know, kind of a thing. But I mean, realistically though, I mean, it doesn't bother me as much as I have now lost that anybody could go in any moment kind of thing. That's all I'm saying. Kind of thing. Gotcha. But I love the show. So it's not.
See, her death didn't bother me near as much as Alan's. Alan's getting beat up kind of bothered me a lot, especially when his eye popped out. And then he made a joke about it later on. Right. Because like, it was seeing myself. It was the weirdest thing. That was great. I do like Rob Kirkman's humor. That was good. That was really good. So all right, we have to talk about the brother. Okay. So
do.
Yeah, we do. We definitely got to talk about the brother. So, Nolan fathers another child through the Bug family in the other universe, I guess. I don't know. And
no, that was
I was having flashbacks to Starship Troopers. Just kidding.
I don't think I've ever watched Starship Troopers or another planet. Anyway, he goes way, way far off and he has this other family and everything. And so Mark brings the brother back to Earth, so on and so forth. And so when we have that moment where his mom and his brother are being attacked by, I don't know what that guy's name is, the guy with the big head, and the multiple guys made him and all that stuff. So they're being attacked by him and everything, and throwing Mark into multiple dimensions and stuff, which was a very cool scene, by the way. I really liked that. However, that entire thing, those whole scenes, the entire time, all three of us kept saying, Oliver, because she named him Oliver, or somebody named him Oliver.
Yeah, she named him.
We kept saying Oliver's powers are going to kick in here. The stress is going to make his powers kick in. His powers are going to kick in. It's going to be something big, and he's going to beat the hell out of this guy. And they never did. And I was just like, are you kidding me? This would have been the perfect opportunity to have his powers kick in and him do something amazing.
Wow.
And I was a little disappointed by that, because I really wanted to see that.
Yeah. I have to tell you, Kirkman's probably one of the writers and creators that has always seemed to subvert my expectations.
Oh, I'm not saying I mean, I liked the way it turned out, but I was just a little disappointed, because I thought that was the perfect opportunity to introduce his powers. And it just never happened. I was like, are you kidding me? Come on.
That just means you're engaged in the story. You want to see what happens with him.
Yeah, that's true.
That's season 3.
Yeah, because we got the preview of season 3, and when we do see that the brother is his powers are coming out, he's fighting alongside Mark. Mark gets a costume change, so Megan, he won't look like Animal Man anymore.
Right.
I don't know if I like his new costume better. I don't know.
The costume change gives me hope that we're going to get the things that I want to see.
Oh, okay.
Hey, we're in spoilerific territory.
No one said we couldn't do that.
Oh my goodness. Oh, see, now I'm so intrigued. I'm so engaged in the story that I'm like, Tom, I want to know. But then part of me's like, No, but I mean, I'm the guy who will read the ending of a book and then go back and start it just because I like the journey, if that makes sense.
Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah. When I first read ElfQuest, I read the last volume first. Like I just bought volume 4 and read that.
Wow.
And I was like, oh, this is good. And then I got the rest of it. So, no, I get it. Yeah. And you guys are in a unique spot because you don't know what's going on.
Right. And you see the big picture.
Yeah. So when I see the trailer, I'm like, oh. And when we got the costume change, towards the end of the trailer, I was like, oh. So yeah, let's. I'm fingers crossed that when we go to season 4, we're going to be right in that sweet spot of stuff that I want to see.
Right. Speaking of ElfQuest, everybody knows I'm a fan of Humble Bundle, and they actually have, if you want to support a charity, ElfQuest, the Dark Horse collection, they have available where you can get volume 1, volume 2, volume 3, volume 4, a whole bunch of other ones, all ElfQuest related stuff digitally. You can do it at 18, but 25, but it goes to World Central Kitchen. So some of the funds go to that. So I know some people like to do the humble bundle things because it helps support charity and stuff like that. So ElfQuest is on there. So sorry, I digress. I just noticed that I keep up with the Humble Bundle stuff, and that's on there. So,
and I just checked number 5 of the trade paperbacks. The costume change is in number 5. So, so I'll at least get to the costume change in the trade.
How many of them do you have right now?
I have 5, but I think that's all they have of this particular format.
That's all that was at Barnes & Noble.
Well, that's true.
They're releasing those piece by piece by piece. Yeah,
right.
Those little
and like I said,
digest versions. Yeah,
this is a brand new format that they just started. So, in fact, DC Comics is starting a format similar to this too. They're re-releasing a lot of their trades in this.
Well, there's the whole thing is that comics are trying to figure out how to be manga, and in their brain, which I don't know if this is true or not, but in their brain, they're like, "Hey, smaller is better." I'm like, "Is it? Are you sure?" I don't know.
Well, you say that.
I don't know if smaller is better. I mean, the whole point is to aim it towards kids, and kids are smaller. Wait. So, within that context, it's like, what? I don't know. What is that?
This is the what are they calling these? The oh shoot, I forget what the oh man, I can't.
Limited collector's edition, 8.5 by 11
size. Yeah. DC's reprinting a bunch of theirs in this size. So
is that bigger or smaller? I can't really.
It's bigger than my head.
Big. Okay, yeah. See, that makes sense to me. Bigger makes sense because you're blowing up the art. You can see it. Everything about making a bigger book makes sense to me. But on the other side, there, the comics are trying to figure out, like, how do we get kids to buy what we do? And kids are buying manga. Manga is smaller. Let's make smaller books.
Oh, but from what I understand, these are selling like hotcakes too.
Yeah, I wouldn't. That doesn't surprise me in the slightest. Right. Yeah.
Although you can't put these in a comic book box, you can't put it in a long box.
You got to get a magazine box for those things.
Right. Yeah. Yep. And I think the Flash versus Superman, the race, the first one, I think they're reprinting that in this size, which if they do, I'm getting that one too.
Interesting.
But
I just thought it was bigger because we were getting older and my eyesight's getting worse.
No, that thing's bigger than my head.
Well, there's a lot of stuff that they do, like especially when they do omnibus books, like they're oversized books now. Like they're normally another couple inches bigger than normal. So it's like it's sort of like making a premium format. Hey, we have these floppies, but now we have like the premium. It's like the old DC used to those gigantic absolute books, hardcovers. People like that stuff.
Well, DC and Marvel just released the DC Marvel crossovers in a big omnibus, which is like $150.
Yeah,
I really, really want that because I've never had any of those issues, and that would be so much fun, and that's a nice hardback book too. I looked at that. Our local comic book shop, Fantasy, just got them in over Christmas time, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I need to start saving up so I can get this.
Yeah, we're looking at doing our first omnibus this year, and I'm kind of trying to figure out, like, are we going to do this big size thing or not? I kind of want to, but I have to make sure that what the fans want for them, and what makes sense. But it's like, for me, every time I get them and I see that they're bigger, I'm like, I like this, that it's bigger like this. So, what we may do is end up doing like an oversized hardcover, and then do like a normal size trade paperback.
Cool.
Kind of what I'm thinking we're going to do. Cause I'm not, there are trade paperback omnibuses, but normally they're normal size. Which is kind of interesting to me that that's happened. So I don't know. I have to do a little bit of research, but we are going to do our first one in September.
Cool. Very cool.
Nice. We'll make sure we get you back on so we can do that. So we can help you promote that.
It's going to be Oz too, because we're
yeah. Now you're speaking my language.
Yeah, we're going to put the first 4 volumes together in one big book. Nia Ruffino has already done a brand new cover for it, which is just mind blowing. So that'll be part of so last year we did in September, because it's sort of back to school time. We did this thing called the book fair, and we just offered up all our old books. We're just like, here's here's our whole stuff, like trade paperbacks. Come get stuff.
Wallet. Here's my wallet. Take my money. Take my money.
And it went really well. We sold tons and tons of just random stuff. And we had like one new issue, like just a special floppy issue. But I was like, okay, so if this works, let's get more specific and let's use this for an opportunity to, actually make a book. And so we're going to do that omnibus in September.
Cool. Very cool.
So you said there's 5 compendiums of Invincible right now?
There's 5 in that format. There are 25 total. Yeah.
Right.
Because like he printed them originally in just normal comic size, and there's 25 of those. Right now they're just making the small versions one at a time.
And since I started in this format, I want to keep going.
Keep going in that format. Yeah, I don't see them on there. I see them differently. So I'm looking at the different ones that I'm looking on their website, on the Skybound site. They don't have a whole bunch. So I guess it's something you have to get differently.
I'm trying to find them on,
anyway, that's okay. Hey everybody, we're still talking about Invincible, season 2, because season 3 starts next week. And if you're just now joining us, we've got Tom from Big Dog Inc. with us again, because he's read them all. So, Mike, you may get mad at me at this.
Number 6 in that format is out. It came out December 17th.
Oh, okay. So it just came out.
So number 6 just came out.
All right. I'm okay for spoilers for the future. If you are not, plug your ears, because I want to ask Tom, what's the favorite thing that you can't wait to see happen on the show?
Dinosaurus. Dinosaurus is a bad guy, pseudo bad guy. He's a bad guy, but he's a bad guy that does bad things for the purpose of the good result that can come from it in the long run. He's kind of like Thanos, right? In that concept where he's like, I'm going to do this, and in the long run, everything will be better.
The ends justify the means, kind of.
Right. Exactly. And there's so he has his moment, but then the relationship between him and Mark continues to grow for a period of time as well. So it was a really fun, unique moment. The character is ridiculous. It's basically just imagine Devil Dinosaur, but he's got a cape. Like, it's ridiculous. But it's really written well. And then when Mark sort of realizes the concept behind his villainy of the ends justify the means, that's where it really starts to get interesting. That story and that dynamic between the two of them. and it kind of it's just a different, again, you want to find like these different takes in the superhero genre if you can, which is very difficult. And to me, that was a very smart, interesting, unique portion of the overall Invincible story.
Cool.
Do you think that's been part of the interest behind Invincible, is just the uniqueness of all the different characters and how they come together?
Yeah. I think that because I mean, all of this stuff has existed now for 15 years or so, through the comics. But I think now we exist in this world where all of the weird puns that he does with all of his characters, I mean, that's just the world we live in. Duplicate, and then later on her brother, spoiler alert, is called Multipole. We live in a world where that thrives on that sort of wordplay and stuff. So a lot of his characters fall into that realm. And I think that just kind of triggers, modern brains for that stuff. For me, again, this is all old hat. I've been there, I've done that. I've seen it and I like it. But, 15 years ago and where we are now from a pop culture society, bit, we're just in a different world. I mean, pop culture has continued to just evolve and become culture. It's not even that pop culture is a thing anymore. It's just culture. That just is what we are at this point.
It reminds me of two things. One is there's Gilmore Girls did a lot of references in that show, and they spoke really fast, and sometimes you'd miss them. Mm-hmm. But then the aspect of those references are to something else, and then it brings me back to one of my favorite Star Trek Next Generation episodes. The whole Darmak, the whole how they communicated was one line from a story, and you had to know that story, and that helps you make those connections and stuff. And I've often wondered. I love Next Generation, and I always thought that was kind of it was always interesting how it kind of foretold kind of how we would communicate, or maybe we always have with that whole pop culture kind of reference.
Oh yeah, but it's deep now. I mean, it's deep now. Yeah. And it's broken up because you have the younger people who are out here quoting, Death Note and stuff like that.
Yes. Yeah. Right.
The older side of people that are out here quoting Jaws and stuff like that. So it's the same, but it's not quite meshing exactly, unless you're one of these guys that happens to be deep in sort of all of it. Yeah.
Yeah, that would not be me. We can go back in time and up to, but some of the new stuff, like Death Note, for example, I didn't know what it was for a long time, and all. And
Death Note. It's an anime. Relatively long running for an anime. Basically, it's about it's about a book that if you write somebody's name in the book, then they end up dying. So it's who's going to control the book and like that kind of thing. So it's interesting. I was kind of into it for a while, and then there was a point where like a corporation got a hold of the book, and I was like, I'm out. This is dumb now. I don't even care to finish this anymore. But the early part of it was kind of interesting. And they did do a Netflix adaptation of it as a live action movie too, which got really panned by the fans, which I understand, but from an older person's like perspective and not like a deep fan of the anime, I thought the movie worked really well. I thought it was really good. So if you want to sort of have the easy access to Death Note, just watch the movie and you'll at least have a concept of what the heck's going on, because it is an adaptation, but it strays from the source material.
Megan, do you know of this?
Oh yes.
Okay. I saw you were piping up as soon as he said Death Note.
I'll add Megan to the scene real quick.
Yeah,
so we're doing this on the fly.
My anime stuff, because I grew up with anime that people really don't even know what the hell it is. I grew up with stuff like Speed Racer, Transor Z, Star Blazers, Battle of the Planets.
Yes.
That kind of stuff. And then as it got more into the 80s, Robotech came around and, Voltron and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then
Speed Racer and Battle of the Planets, those are my anime right there.
Yeah. And then the next stage of all of that was they started to import things like Akira came over and all that kind of stuff. And that's all like 70s and 80s, and then late into the late 80s, and then it kind of started to explode into like Sailor Moon arrived and all that kind of stuff, and it just kind of kept going.
Oh, Cowboy Bebop! I've heard.
Cowboy Bebop and stuff. Yeah. Neon Genesis and whatever.
Yeah. What else did you say, Megan?
I have a love-hate relationship with Death Note.
In what way?
I started out, I really loved it, and then the main character got on my nerves, and I hate it. But I love the live action Netflix for one reason and one reason only, and that's Ryuk, who is played by Willem Dafoe.
Willem Dafoe, yeah.
And I love him.
Oh wow, Willem Dafoe is in a.
Uh-huh.
He plays the demon, yeah.
He plays the.
Is that's on Netflix, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Interesting.
Uh-oh. I got homework.
That's the only thing I like about the movie. Because
Gotcha.
they did Ryuk. They did his design really, really well. He looks fantastic. And it's Willem Dafoe. And I love him.
That's awesome. That's cool.
Very cool. Very cool.
Right on. Cool. All right. Thanks, Megan. Real quick, let's see what else do we need to bring up about Invincible season 2? Any other thoughts or comments or funny anecdotes?
The only thing I'm going to say is I really enjoyed season 2 a lot, as much as I did season 1, and I think season 3 looks incredible. I'm looking forward to seeing it as soon as it airs, and this one I'll actually be watching in real time.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I can't do it. I have to wait till it's done and binge it. I can't do episodes. It's like the Creature Commandos came out, and I watched the first 2 episodes, and I wasn't. It was a weird thing because I wasn't in. I was like, I don't know. I don't think I'm in. But when I got to the end of the second episode, I was like, I got to wait for a third one. Like, this is terrible. What format is this? Even though this is how I grew up with TV, is every week.
Right.
Episode. Nowadays, I can't do it. So I was like, yeah, I got to wait for this to be finished, and then I'll just tear through it. So now that it's done, I can go back and give it a run.
I watched. I don't remember if I watched 2 episodes or 1. And I don't know. I wasn't impressed with it. I don't know. It felt like he was rehashing Suicide Squad. And
that's 100%. But that is what the Creature Commandos is. It always was sort of a Suicide Squad thing. But you're not wrong in that regard. For me, it was just more like, again, like we talked about the origins, right? It was like, oh God, I don't need origins. Just like put me in the story. Like, let's go. Take me somewhere. And so while it wasn't bad, it just also wasn't like, wow, I'm so in on this.
Right.
But in my brain, I'm thinking like, we have to eventually just move past origins and tell me a story. Although we also have this situation where I know that they are thinking nobody knows who these characters are. So we have to tell them who they are.
But see, I find that interesting.
Stub your toe.
Because you're coming from the comic book world,
Mm-hmm.
and most of us comic book readers, we're usually introduced to a character not from their introduction. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we don't know their origin first off. We get introduced to them in the action, like you're saying. But they take the movie world so different, movie and television so different, and oh no, we have to explain where they came from. No, you don't. Just give us the character. Go.
Yeah.
You can have an episode later to explain
flashbacks
you can
or
deepen it later. Yeah, 100%. Listen, and here's the living proof. Star Wars.
Yes.
Star Wars just said, you're on a ship. There's some robot dudes. There's a guy in black. There's a princess. Go. Like that. It proves that you can do this. Not that everything has to exist in that format, but it proves that an audience, if they are thrown into the fire, it can work, and people will be attached to it just as much as if you handhold them through an origin story.
I find it more intriguing when you get thrown into it, and because then it's like, oh wow, how do you get this power? Oh, what else can he do? Or she can do, and stuff like that. So, and then it becomes a discovery, a journey of discovery as you go along, instead of you know everything just starting out. At least some mystery to it. We promote Rippaverse a lot because we're big fans of the Rippaverse by Eric July. And that's kind of what he did with his characters. He just threw you right into his universe. And we still don't know, like, the main character, Isom. We really don't know where his powers come from at this point. We don't even know what his full powers are yet, and he's already had 2 books, and it's like, okay. And I don't have a problem with that. I'm fine. I will eventually learn that all, but I don't have to know it up front. So
hyper explanation can just slow everything down.
Agreed.
Especially at the beginning. Everybody wants to know. It's like Wolverine. No one knew who Wolverine was for like 40 years.
Yeah.
Before they finally said, okay, this is the real origin, guys, and this is the real thing. So you can there's ways to tell stories without hand holding. And to me, I think that's the best way is to just kind of go in and let the characters tell you who they are versus you telling the audience who they are.
Agreed. Cool.
Yeah. I do like that aspect. Do you think that is the biggest difference for TV shows though, is they feel like they have to do that, or they,
I think nowadays it is.
I think it varies. I mean, because I think it's tricky because when you're adapting something, so there's a difference between we've made a new thing and we're adapting something. Because if they're adapting something like with a thing like Invincible or something with superheroes, there's an assumption that the general public doesn't know what this is. They may understand, but and even with like Batman and Superman, like every time we get Batman and Superman, we get a new origin aspect of it, right?
Right.
So it's like, but and again, in that case, now we've got 40 years of movies. People got the gist of it, but
I remember when they introduced Tom Holland as Spider-Man, and I literally said, if they give me another version of Peter Parker getting bit by the spider, I quit. I'm done with this. Everybody and their brother and alien cousin knows how Spider-Man came in existence. No one cares. Stop it. And they finally got smart and they didn't do it. We jumped in. Peter Parker already had his powers. He had his costume, and they just hit the ground running. I'm like, this is the way you should have done it from the beginning. At least maybe not from the total beginning, because I still like the first series of Spider-Man with Tobey Maguire. But every time you reintroduce Spider-Man, you don't need to do that. Every time you reintroduce Batman, we don't need to see his parents get killed in front of the theater. We've seen it a billion times. Everyone knows who Batman is. Stop it. Drives me insane. Oh, gosh. Sorry, that was my rant. I'm off my...
All right. That's all right. Oh my goodness. So Tom, let me ask you this. Speaking of, storytelling and just jumping right into storytelling and stuff, do you have favorite books, like favorite comics that you've always enjoyed because it did that just threw you into the action or threw you into the story? I got him thinking.
Well, not to some degree. Yeah. But most of the time that happened because I came into the story in a weird place. Like for when I read my first X-Men book, it was like 210 or something. It was the one where Cyclops and Storm, fight to lead the X-Men, and she had no powers. She had her mohawk at the time or whatever. So I just came into that like, what the hell's going on? I don't know anything about this. I just bought it because I bought it and it looked cool. So I was immediately just tossed into that particular moment. Same with like the G.I. Joe thing that I bought, right? I hadn't been reading any IDW stuff, but I come in here and suddenly Serpentor is back and he's leading this troop and the Cobra's on the opposite side. This is like, what the hell? There's like so much going on. But I came into a point where it was like, we're at this point. So when you're talking about like starting points, like Invincible doesn't have that really going on as much. You definitely get into it, but the Invincible stuff is a very slow burn through the trade paperbacks. Like it's not like the animated series where by the you're immediately offing the Guardians of the Globe, and it's like this. It's a very what do they call it, decompressed type of storytelling. You get a little deeper sort of look at the characters in that regard, but there's definitely, again, in the early years of the book, it was almost canceled because it was kind of a little slow. I think once you got to where the Guardians of the Globe got offed, and then Ryan Otley kind of came in, and the action sort of started to, peak a little bit more. That's where the book caught on. So, because again, at that point it became different. That's when it became truly a different book versus here's a guy and he's got some powers and he's doing a thing and whatever. It's like, we're killing people right now. Like 7 people we're offing these guys, and then this guy is related to the guy that killed them all. Like that's where it became a thing. But it took a while to get there in the comics. In the animated, it was pretty fast. So I think that there is a sort of sweet spot for it where you can introduce a character and tell the audience who they are, but at the same time have something going on that's relevant. I think Invincible's origin is interesting because he wasn't getting his powers and everybody expected him to have it. They were like, what's wrong with this kid? Why doesn't he have powers? And then one day he just gets them. They just appear, and then he starts to figure out how they all work. So again, kind of a slow burn, but a little bit different than normal. But other than that, I fall back on things that, like Torment, the Todd McFarlane book that he did for Spider-Man when he relaunched Spider-Man #1. So that first 5 issues is called Torment. That's comic books on steroids. I mean, that's like peak McFarlane storytelling. And it's wild and it's crazy and it's just everywhere. People get down on the storytelling, like the writing, I should say, the writing. And I'm like, yeah, okay, I can understand that. But even Todd himself is like, I never wrote anything before. So, you got to kind of take that with a grain of salt and be like, okay, the writing may not be great, but is the storytelling good? And the storytelling in Torment is fantastic, at least from a visual sense. Could it be cleaned up in dialogue? Sure, of course. But from a visual sense, that's just a roller coaster ride through the whole thing. And I love it. I absolutely love Torment. In fact, I just read it not long ago again, because I'm using it to inform something that I'm doing. And I purposely want to sort of tap into the McFarlane visual sense, and take that to what I'm doing. Because so even in this script that I'm writing for this thing, I'm telling my artist, like, we're going over here. Like, I know this is kind of what we normally do, but we're going over here now. I want you to push yourself. I want to push your creative thought process out of the square to square to square to square to take it to deep, heavy angles, close-ups. Like Todd might give you like 4 vertical panels, and then each one is like just a hyper close-up of like a finger or his eye, or one building in the background with the moon or whatever to kind of set the scene. So I love what he does from a visual sense, and particularly Torment and to a lesser extent some of the stuff that he did with the rest of the series. But that to me was like a peak moment for comics. Obviously, it sold a bajillion copies, but a peak for him. And it's a bummer that it gets sort of crapped on for the writing. But the storytelling is fantastic. So stuff like that, I come back to quite a bit.
I love how you separated writing from storytelling, because that's something that George Lucas gets crapped on for, because everyone's like, well, George Lucas can't write. You're right. He can't write, but he's a storyteller.
He's a storyteller.
He's not a writer. He's a storyteller, and I totally agree with that. And the prequels are perfect example of that. The whole sand, it gets so irritating.
Yeah. Well, that's also an example of a writer given completely free reign. Right. With absolutely no one checking him at any stage and going, can we tweak that a little bit? It's just, no, we're just doing it this way.
But if you look at the overall story, it's great.
It works.
Fantastic. It works. Exactly.
Yeah. How would you define the difference between writing and storytelling a little bit deeper?
Well, I think it's storytelling is kind of, in the context that we're talking about, comics and like film and TV and stuff, storytelling leans into the visual, because you can tell a story without any words, any dialogue. You can tell a story visually. And if that visual makes sense as you're going through it without any sort of words or whatever, you've succeeded in telling a story. All right. Writing is then, what did that character say? What was their tone? What was their emotion? What was, whatever. And the visual can still show that. The visual can still show the emotion, but it won't necessarily tell you the specifics, what's in their head at that time when they're saying whatever it is that they're saying. So the writing is, to me, writing is more the character. The storytelling is more just the sequence of events from beginning to end. That's your storytelling. And you have to have a good story to then come back in and say, now here's the writing for that story. So like if you took out all of the dialogue from Torment, and even if all you did was leave in the constant thrumming of the drums, the doom, 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 if that's all there was, and then you saw Spider-Man doing his thing and fighting the lizard and meeting Calypso and, all that kind of stuff, or not Calypso, Voodoo, all that stuff, it would work from a storytelling standpoint because it does that. And then when you come in, that's where you can kind of stub your toe. If the dialogue doesn't sound right in the moment, sometimes writers get way too hyper specific, trying to make perfect dialogue. Right. This is the way that this should be written, rather than using like, instead of saying going to, I'm gonna, you know what I mean? It can start to feel too stiff. And if we're if we're flying through New York fighting a lizard guy talking with perfect English, that's not gonna sound right. That's fine for something like the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. It's not necessarily the same writing you want for Spider-Man fighting the lizard in an alleyway. Right. And that's the writing to me. You still have to write the story, but you write the story and then you have to put the writing on top of the story.
Okay. When you're doing your comics, do you find that you kind of do the overarching story, and then where do creating the panels come in versus the writing of the dialogue in those panels?
Yeah, I have a sense of what the issue has to do through its 20 pages or 40 pages or whatever it is. I have a sense of what it has to do. But then when I go in to like, okay, I'm in the first scene and Critter does something. That's where the writing comes in, because now I know what she has to do, but now I'm writing how she does it. And so she's jumping off the building. She lands on the bottom. She meets a guy and says something. That's where that's where you start to direct the story now. Cause now you're moving the camera and doing all that. I would use a lot of like movie terms, because that's what I use to kind of, educate myself on how to show people what they need to see. And that's one of the unique things of Todd. He threw away the idea that you need a big box to show them what you need to see. And he was just like, no, you just get, all you need is that little piece. That's the part of the story that you need to think about. And so, I'm nowhere at Todd's level to be able to figure out how to do that kind of stuff. I do try and learn from these guys that do things a little bit differently, and try and turn that into my stuff. But, for me, I write in what they call the DC method, where it's page one, it's panel one, it's something happens, and here's the dialogue or the caption or whatever that has to go in there. Cause to me, I have to tell my artist, like, okay, this is what's happening, and you need to leave room for this bubble, a thought bubble or a word bubble or caption somewhere. You have to leave the space. Otherwise, the artist could just be like filling that whole thing with stuff, and then it's just going to get covered up anyway. Or there might be enough room for what we need to put in there. So anytime I hear people that are like, well, I just kind of let the artist do it, I'm like, huh? What? The artist is needs to know what goes in that panel. They need to know what you are going to then put into that panel. I'll never understand the going back and writing the dialogue and stuff after the art's already done, because they should be working together.
Right.
So that's the way that I've done it for 15 years. And I've never had an artist be like, dude, this is too much. Like they're always like, I got it. This makes sense. I understand, let's go. So I think that like, if I were to give, sort of advice to writers, I'd be like, write your damn story, like write it before you give it to somebody. It's okay to let them free in sort of the artistic styling of it, but you've got to say, in this panel, this character has a monologue for whatever reason, and there has to be space for that so that you can get what you need into that space, and the artist needs to leave that space. And if they don't, then you're now forced to reset how you're telling your story, which doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah, because the artist is conveying your story.
Right. That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like he's a cinematographer, right? He has the script. He knows what's going to happen in this scene, and he knows how he needs to leave and move and, do stuff to make it work to its, best ability. Yeah. Yeah.
He's there to enhance your stories.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah. I get it.
That makes sense, because we've had Mark Anthony Austin on, who was he was the Boba Fett that walked out on stage when they did the New Hope.
Special edition.
Special edition.
Right.
But he was just asked to be there. He's not even really an actor. He is a visual effects artist. And he talked about his experience of doing the Warhorse movie.
Warhorse is great.
What he talked about, the whole trench scene was his concept, kind of a thing. Like here's we want him going through the thing. And so he talked about being a visual artist. You do a lot of work, where the director's going, but you because of that, you know how to make the scene and stuff, and then keep them and stuff. And he talked about working with Spielberg and also some of the computer at that time, some of the, computer animation difficulties and stuff. It was really interesting. But I do find it where being able to communicate your vision in such a way that you're like, okay, here's the artist, here's where we're headed, here's where we're going. That makes sense, kind of a thing. I was curious about that. Like, what's the process of steps when you are making a comic, and where does story and then the dialogue, the writing come into play? That was interesting.
Yeah. I always, to me, they have to overlap. You can't have dialogue that isn't, if it's not in that moment, in that panel, it needs to lead you to the next panel. And so you need to know what's in there, and then you need to know what that reaction in the next panel is. So it's always got to be, like a dance from one to the next, to the next, to the next. And, if you're not doing that right from the beginning, I just feel like you're stunting what you're doing, because you're now, as a storyteller, as the writer, you're now relying on someone else to tell you how it works. And then you're working around them, where it should start with you as the writer, and then the artist should be working around you. That's the way that I've always done it. It's the way that makes sense to me.
So I just recently had something like that happen to me. So I wrote a book, The Immortality Code, which came out October 15th. And I'm currently working on my second book. And I've commissioned a artist to create the creature of my second book. I'm not going to reveal much about that, but I talked to him again a few weeks ago. And you know, he sent me his first drawings and stuff, which is fantastic. They look great. And I'm like, I love what you've done so far. And I says, I got an idea for the book cover, and I started laying out my idea, and he's like, ooh, I like that, but think of it this way. And he immediately had a different, idea, you know, or a different visual, based on what I had laid out for him. And I'm like, oh, that's even better. Yes, I like that. So yeah, I think the writer and the artist should be working hand in hand to come up with the visuals to enhance the story.
That collaboration.
Yeah. I always tell my artists, like, you're the one that has to put this on the page. So if you see a better way of moving the information, that's fine. But the information the information still has to be the same.
Right.
But how it's presented,
yes,
that's the artistic side.
And that's exactly what happened. You know, I was visualizing it one way, and I'm like, this is what I want to convey in the cover.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, okay, that's great, but this is the way I see it. And when he explained the way he saw it, I was like, oh yeah, that's even better. Yeah, I like your idea. We're gonna run with that one.
It's much more betterer.
More better. Cheers. I'm out of iced coffee.
Oh, sorry. I'll stop doing it.
I'm done.
Oh gosh.
All right. So,
well, we've gone. How long have we gone, man?
We still got another hour to go. We're fine.
I do not, but that was great. Oh my goodness. Oh, Tom, it's been great having you with us. Thank you.
yes.
Thanks.
Yeah, I appreciate it. It's always a good time.
Yeah. Just real quick, I want to do another shout out. Everybody, please check out Tom's Kickstarter. And it's his Critterverse. It's their 15 years of Big Dog Inc. and Critter and the newest issue. And so he's already met his goal. But if you want to get introduced into this world and support Tom in all the hard work that he's been doing for so long, you can join his fandom and really take a look at just all about Critterverse, about the character, and just help back his projects. We are big supporters of independent creators. Yes. And we really like Tom. So if you have the opportunity to help support him, please do so. Again, you can go to Kickstarter. You can look up under Critterverse, Tom Hutchison, and SON. By the way, I when I first did, I was doing SEN. Sorry, Tom.
Yeah, and if if you're not familiar with the book, you can get caught up. There's you can get all the trade paperbacks in one big book if you want to do that. Or we have what's called the quick catch up, which is basically just the last handful of issues. So you can get like 21 to 25 just to kind of, test the waters and see if you dig what we're doing. And then if you like them, you can go get the trade paperbacks at your leisure and go backwards. So there's, and then like we talked about earlier, there's digital formats as well. If you want to just kind of see what's going on from a digital sense and then grab physical books later.
Yep. Right on. And let's see, Mike, do you have anything else for us on your radar?
Just, well, real quick, I am going to do another shameless plug. Over the week, I did finish the audiobook version of my book.
Yay!
Submitted it. It is submitted for approval at this point. It says it could take up to 10 days for that. So real soon, the Immortality Code will be available on Audible. So
nice.
Which we do have a Audible sponsorship. So you can get our code.
Right. Just 2 geeks, the number 2 geeks on Audible. Here, real quick, everybody. Or no, it's not number 2. It's spelled out this time. Sorry, I need to change that. So you can go to audibletrial.com/2geeks, TWOGEEKS, and go there and you can get, if you haven't tried Audible before, you can get a free trial where you get one book of your choice, audiobook, excuse me, one audiobook of your choice. They have tons and tons. Any genre you can think of: mystery, thriller, sci-fi, fantasy, nonfiction, historical fiction, autobiographies, and they just have a ton of different things you can pick, along with a lot of different, I would say just a lot of different great voice actors who do a lot of different things. We've had Mark Thompson on the show, who does a lot of the Star Wars ones. Great guy. He's a lot of fun. He's a ham. So, but you can get all kinds of different ones with that. So just go to Audible Trial, audibletrial.com/2geeks, TWOGEEKS, and you can start your Audible membership. You can end it at any time. It's $14.95 a month. And if you do that as a subscription, you also get the Audible catalog. In other words, they have a whole separate catalog of audiobooks that are included, and which is really cool. I have over 200 audiobooks because I'm always doing something, but it's always great to have them on the go, and I can listen to them in the car or whenever, a little bit here and a little bit there. I am a little more than halfway through Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Been and that's been pretty fun to do. So
Nice.
Yeah.
Very nice. And you just got Batman, didn't you?
I did just get the Batman book that we're going to, so I'll be listening to it. Actually, I'll start it. So I'll put Hitchhikers on hold for a little bit and then go ahead and do the Batman book by
John Jackson
Miller,
who is going to be on the show at the end of February, at the end of this month. Okay. All right. So with that said, please make sure and go and like and subscribe to us on Facebook, where I try to post some funny memes or interesting memes and any information about when we go live. Speaking of go live, we go live every Saturday morning at 9 a.m. Central Standard Time. You do the math on the rest because I don't like math. And we are live on Facebook, Facebook, Twitch, Rumble, and I think that's it. I don't know.
Yeah, you got it. Yep. Real quick shout out. Lori says, "It's Tom."
Showing up late, Lori. You have to watch the show back, Lori. We talked about you at some point, but I'm not going to tell you when.
There you go. And you can go back and watch the last time you were on too.
That's right.
There you go.
That's right. Tom, it has been a true pleasure once again having you with us. Thank you. I love your insights that you brought out today. Thank you so much for your time.
I appreciate you guys having me.
All right.
Wait, here she goes. She says, wait a minute, real quick. That's exactly how I said it. Did you hear me? And then you did. Oh my God, man. And then she says, now I have to know if you talked crap.
Yeah, we're not going to tell you that to go back and watch it.
Lori, thanks for joining us.
Yes, thank you. And then share it with a friend too. So,
oh gosh. Well, as we said, Tom, always a pleasure. Thanks for being here with us today on the show.
Thanks for the invite.
Thank you.
You bet.
All right. With that said, please do not Steven skip this episode because we are much more better than the rest. Thank you for joining us today on the Two Geeks and a Microphone podcast. Tune in next week when we will have more news and reviews. Until then,
may the force be with you.